Hey guys, if you clicked on this, you know this is going to be a commentary of the last Toy Chasers episode. I just thought it'd be kind of cool to give you guys a little insight into the creative process and just the decisions made in actually editing this thing. This is going to be some kind of like Billy's little editing sessions. Just kind of give you a little bit more dynamic on what goes into actually creating one of these things.
The whole hive of scum and villainy is the Dongo.
You can never do that. You can never, ever do that. And I'm like, but it's so cool. And
You'll be dead.
We do commentaries on DVDs when they come out, but those are usually done a couple of years after we've actually filmed, so you're not really going to get a lot of insight in those as far as the actual creation of the video. Besides, it's normally just us arguing with each other or acting stupid. So I'm kind of hoping that this is going to be a little different and a little bit more informative for you guys. And I just kind of talk about what was going on, some of the things that happened while we were filming that didn't make the cut, and who knows, I'm rambling, so let's get at it. This is actually a splice of two different filming sessions. I don't actually remember when we went out to Oklahoma City for this, but this was a different time compared to the flea market or the thrift store or whatever it was. We went up there with Alpha and Dodongo, and the second part of this, it was just with Alpha. I want to say it was for the convention that's up there, the video game convention in Oklahoma City. For the second part, heck, I don't remember. No, for this part. The second part, actually, we filmed right after the Toy Base 10 episode of the Toy Chasers. Like, literally, this was like 20 minutes afterwards. Not this, but the second part with the thrift store. But this was actually a cool place. A friend of mine had told me about it, and we knew we were going to be in the area, so kind of looked it up, and I think we called him like 20 minutes before we showed up asking if we could film, so there was no planning involved, which is pretty much how we do everything. But I would have liked to have gone back and gotten an interview with the guy who created it, the people who created it, just try to get a little bit more footage and talk about why they decided to do this and everything. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do this before this was aired, so. But that was an idea. Or that was something that I did want to do to kind of flesh out this little bit here. I was kind of playing around with how long I was actually going to show this because most of the footage I had was actually of Alpha talking. Billy had gotten a phone call from a creditor, and it kind of put him in a bad mood, like right when we got there. So he wasn't very talkative, and stupid Dodongo and Jay, I don't know. I was just looking through the footage because this was a couple of years ago. I didn't catch a whole lot of stuff that they were talking about. So I knew it was going to be a short segment. I just didn't know if it was going to be 3 minutes, 8 minutes, 5 minutes. I think is about what it ended up being. And also, I was just kind of concerned: were people going to lose interest if this part kind of went on a little bit too long, because we weren't buying anything. There's no footage of me in here either because I'm filming this whole thing. So I actually made the decision to not include me in the episode at all, simply because I'm not in any of the footage in the museum. And the second part, the main part, if you will, I didn't have any money, so I didn't buy anything. So there was really no reason for me to show up. I did do some interview footage after the fact with Billy and Jay when we were doing the interview segments, after I'd kind of pieced together what I wanted, just to have it just in case. But I felt it would be kind of random if I just appeared all of a sudden talking about whatever was going on when you hadn't seen me earlier in the episode. I actually, in one of the earlier edits, put some of my talking in this section just to kind of introduce the fact that I am there, but most of what I said in the interview footage, Jay actually kind of covered also, and he actually wasn't more eloquent, but he said the stuff a lot better than I did. So at that point, there really was no reason for me to be included in this. I always try to find some little interesting kind of out in left field facts to kind of sprinkle in throughout these episodes, whether it's Game Chasers or Toy Chasers. And I kind of wanted to have something here in this museum section, and I was kind of having trouble coming up with something. Did some research on early Batman figures and stuff. I figured I'd do something like that, but really didn't have anything that I liked. And I was just randomly Googling stuff, and I found this picture, this odd-looking, what looked like an action figure to me, and it freaking blew my mind because the thing looked like a G.I. Joe figure, action figure from the 60s. And I was really kind of stunned that they had the same type of toys, because it was a toy, 2,000 years ago.
Actually created an atmosphere here, which is really cool.
Oh, what is that? Republic credits? No good. I need something more real.
Billy and his stupid Watto impersonation. Actually, his impersonation's pretty good. It's funny is whenever he does an impersonation of anything, it kind of reverts back into a Watto, even if he's doing a Russian or an Irish accent. It doesn't matter. He's horrible at impersonations, by the way. That's the only thing he can do decent. Well, his Herman Munster's not bad. It's funny is I didn't get an exterior shot of this place, and nobody really knows what this place is called.
It's like game on at this point. So one of the first things I see here is a Star Wars Rebel transport toy.
Dang, I wanted that, man. Like I said, this segment was filmed right after, oh man, I don't even know what episode it is. Episode 4, I think, or episode 3, the one at Toy Base 10 in Oklahoma City. We left there, went to a couple of places. This is the only place that actually had anything that we picked up. But I had no money because I had to borrow money from Jay at Toy Base 10. But there was all kinds of stuff here. There was stuff from the 50s and 60s, just random toys. Dude, I wanted that transport. Actually, that's one of my favorite Star Wars ship designs, and I don't know why. I just think it's because it's odd looking.
I mean, I had fun with them because they were robots that turned into different vehicles, just like Transformers. I didn't care. Yeah, I'm getting this. Yeah. I'm getting this.
So I've actually, in the later episodes, the more recent ones, I've actually tried to make these little factoids a little more, the visuals a little more related to what's being talked about. Before I would just do like a generic kind of semi-transparent blue or green or red square. And now I've started playing around with borders and stuff that are kind of, you know, more in the style of whatever the toy or the factoid is talking about. This is funny. I think this actually made the episode. This whole bit right here. And to be fair, I'm filming here. To be fair, I didn't know what that was either. I suspected it was Star Wars. I actually say that. You can hear me ask if that's Star Wars, and they shoot me down pretty fast. But the whole Chewbacca thing, it looked more Imperial, the design of it. So I was thinking maybe it was something. And that's the thing is we never had that, so I don't remember it. I kind of vaguely remember seeing it in advertisements and stuff, but the connection wasn't made at the time. But the size of the little holes, the little slots, it looked like it would be for Star Wars figures. Nothing else really made sense. And when I got home and started editing this together, I found it online on Google, and when I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness. So I waited for the interview for us to do the interview stuff, and I purposely didn't tell them, and I purposely had Billy leave while I was interviewing Jay, and vice versa. So, well, the first one anyways. I think Jay was the first one that I interviewed, and I made sure that Billy wasn't there because I didn't want him to know, because when I say I'm going to give you the clue, I wanted their actual reactions to be caught on tape. And it's gold. It's gold. You see like the realization on Jay's stupid face. He's like, oh my goodness. That's definitely my favorite part of this. But again, to be fair, I didn't know what it was either, so I can't call them stupid. I can call them stupid, but I'm in the same boat with them as far as this goes.
We're not trying to give history lessons, all right? We're not Norm the toy historian here.
That was funny. I like that. And the toys were all over the place in this man. It was crazy. I tell you, not the hardest, the thing I hate the most about editing an episode is fixing all the audio. Trying to level it out to where you don't have the clipping and stuff. And Billy and Jay, especially in the interview stuff, are really bad at starting really loud and then almost fading to a whisper at the end of their sentence or whatever they're saying. So I have to go in there and I have to try to keep it all to where it's not, dying down to a whisper and you can't really hear anything. It's the most tedious thing out of anything as far as creating an episode. And I usually hold off to the very last moment to do that because I dread it. But I think what I'm going to try to do is edit in little sections, maybe like 5 minutes at a time, and get all the green screen work done, fix all the audio, do the color correction and stuff, and just have these little sections completely done. That way I don't have to worry about them, a 25-30 minute episode at the end and dreading it and stalling a lot of times. Usually I'll lose a couple of days because I'm kind of like, I don't want to go to the computer and actually deal with it, So I'll work on it for a little bit and then I'll go watch TV or do whatever. And that last part, the finalization, the polish, takes a lot longer than it should, for me anyways, just because the creative decisions have already been made. So everything else is just like, it's drudgery, really. And I can't edit as fast as Billy can. Billy can knock out an episode considerably faster than I. He's done a lot more than I have, but he was an editor in real life. He did that for a living, so I'd like to say I've streamlined the process a little bit, but it still takes me a lot longer to do an episode than him. Oh, and that's another thing is bleeping out the cuss words for the YouTube version. These stupid jerks do not make it easy on me, especially Jay. The last one, the California one, I wasn't there for that. So they were really bad. And that thing, I swear it took me like a day and a half just to bleep out all the cuss words. And I think I missed several of them. It's funny, it's in every episode, even ones that Billy does, there's always a couple of cuss words that slip by. Even though we've reviewed it 10 times, we've just missed them. Dude, whenever Billy does that, I swear it's the funniest thing. I laugh every time. It's so stupid, but it never gets old. And one of the things in this episode that I was actually kind of surprised at the reaction on YouTube. I thought there'd be a lot more negativity, because we filmed this kind of incognito with Jay's little camera. He had this cheap little camera that cost a couple of $100s. We didn't go in here with the fancy one. So especially when the lighting would get kind of weird and they'd be cast in shadows and stuff. His camera didn't pick up light or dark areas very well. So everything would get really, really grainy. And I would go in there and I'd try to do some color correction, but all it really did was just highlight the choppiness of the quality of the picture. This stuff looked okay, but if there's some certain areas where they get backlit, like the whole picture would just deteriorate and it would look like garbage. Especially towards the end of this, you'll really start to notice it. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if that was the reason why we were using Jay's camera. There's actually probably a good possibility that the main one, the batteries died. I don't know. This was shot several years ago, so I might be wrong about that.
When it comes to vehicles, I lean towards stuff I had more than I lean stuff I didn't have. Well, no shit, right?
Freaking idiot. It's funny, is this is titled Stupid, and they both show their stupidity several times throughout this episode. That was just another one that Jay did. The big one, of course, is the Chewbacca bandolier, or whatever it's called, but I thought it was a fitting title. Actually, I couldn't come up with a clever name the way Billy does on this one, and I pieced it together. And I had Billy's reaction to finding out that it was a Star Wars carrying case at the very end. and he just happened to say, just call this episode stupid. And I didn't have anything better to call it, so I was like, okay, actually that's kind of funny, so I will call it stupid. But it's not just that incident. Like I said, throughout this thing, they really show their stupidity. So Dodongo actually wasn't here filming this, but nobody seems to have caught on that they're wearing something completely different from the first part in the museum. But because he was there, it made sense to kind of sprinkle him in a little bit more. The interview stuff with Alpha was actually filmed several years ago also, and I've used that interview footage in several different episodes, Game Chasers and Toy Chasers, because I actually asked him a lot of questions because he lives in Pittsburgh, so I knew, you don't really have access to him. So the museum stuff he did know about, and this, and he talked about both, got some interview footage for that. We went out game chasing several times, and I had him talking about that stuff also. And we had already filmed this stuff. Like I said, we'd already filmed this stuff at the Toy Base 10. So all this interview footage I've kind of been sitting on to actually edit these together. And that's another thing. This episode actually was never going to be an episode. I thought, after we filmed this, I thought, okay, it's kind of interesting. Maybe I'll make this into like a mini episode if we ever do a DVD or something for the Toy Chasers, kind of like an exclusive for the DVD. I didn't think it was anything special, but Billy kept asking me every once in a while, hey, when are you going to do the stuff when I got the Millennium Falcon? And I was kind of like, I don't know. And I'd actually started editing another Toy Chasers episode when I started, right before I started this one, and he said, dude, do the Millennium Falcon one. I was like, all right. I'll look through the footage. I started looking through the footage, and I was like, dang, this is actually kind of entertaining. It's actually kind of funny. He found some cool stuff, but I was like, this is actually not bad. This is better than I remember actually filming it. But I needed it paired with something, because on its own, it wasn't long enough to do a standard episode. And kind of the way we figure is anything over 20 minutes is an episode, anything under is a mini episode. Even if it's like an 18-minute video, it's still technically not really an episode in our minds. We just kind of had this artificial cutoff. So I didn't want to have, on its own, I think it was like 17 minutes or so. And that's a freaking long mini episode. And I was like, dude, that's too much work just for a mini episode. So I wanted to pair it with something. Also, I didn't think on its own it was enough for an actual episode, just the content, not just the time. And we had that stuff at the museum that I was probably thinking sometime in the future I would do like a little, 7-10 minute mini episode with. I was like, well, it's the same city that they went to. I'll just pair them together. The same people were involved for the most part as well. So I thought it fit together. One thing actually I forgot to do was boost the contrast on Billy's interview footage slightly on this. I totally forgot about it until after it was uploaded. I think that's the only technical thing that when I watch this now actually kind of bothers me. There definitely is a huge upgrade though as far as the video quality with the new cameras that we've been buying. I can't believe that the first several seasons we were using a camera as crappy as this one that Jay has.
I think this is from Last Action Hero.
Dude, you guys aren't gonna believe what I found for Sega Genesis, and it's complete. Can't believe it. Batman Forever.
Dude, you actually had me going.
All right, right here. See, they get backlit and the whole thing just starts going in and out, light and dark. Really stupid. But I had to use that because he finds a Tauntaun here. I didn't want to just cut to him. Oh, here's a Tauntaun. I wanted the viewer to see that literally just whatever direction you look, you're going to find something.
So Melvor got a Tauntaun right under my nose because he decided he was going to hand the camera off to me, which I think is bullshit. They gave him an unfair advantage, but he found the Tauntaun for like 50 cents or $1 or something like that at some flea market that we went to.
So even though the video quality wasn't that great, I decided that it was worth keeping in. God, that looks terrible though. Look at that.
Unfortunately, mine's deformed, and costs more. But I don't have this thing, so I'm going to be getting it. I have one. I have one just like that. Real grenade.
They empty out the bottom of them, so obviously you won't get it. I took one of these to grade school with me because my sister had one, and I went to do for show and tell.
The audio here sucks. But I thought this was funny what he was talking about, so I left it in. And that's the funny thing. A lot of the deleted scenes that we put up on Patreon is usually stuff that can't be used for one reason or another in an actual episode. Either there's like some copyrighted music playing, on the speakers in the store that we're in, or the audio is just absolutely horrendous, and it's unusable completely, or just for whatever reason, it just doesn't fit the flow of the episode and bogs things down. So, some of this stuff could have easily been deleted scenes, but I think they were entertaining enough to where I just said screw it and I left them in.
Under $40? Well, I can dig that.
This thrift store is pretty awesome. There was some pretty good stuff in here. We picked up some pretty good stuff.
It was fun. It was fun because there really was that excitement of possibly walking down an aisle and seeing this.
This thing actually doesn't feel like a 23-minute or 20 whatever this is, 23-minute video, which I think is actually a sign that it works when it feels like it's closer to 15 minutes or so. That's the thing. It's always trying to find that balance of entertaining and still flows and makes sense. I actually trimmed this down the last minute. I sent this to Jordan. I sent this to Jordan to upload, and then at the last minute I was like, no, hold on a second. And I did things like I did that little Photoshop picture of Billy and as Luke Skywalker, and I just kind of trimmed off some of the fat to where it flowed a little bit better, and I thought it worked. A little more effective anyways. But I don't know, man. If this is something that you guys want to see more of or hear more of, just let us know in the comments. I think it's cool that we give you guys a little more unique kind of view of what we do compared to just the average YouTube audience. And this is something that doesn't take a lot of effort, that if you want, Billy can do as well. When he does an episode, I'll be editing, I think, a Retropalooza Game Chasers next. I could do the same thing. Just let us know if this is something or if you guys want us together. The only thing with that is you're not going to get anything informative out of that. So it's something to consider. Did the Carrie Fisher thing because this is the first video actually that we did after she passed. So, but anyways, thanks for listening, guys, and let us know what you think in the comments. See you later.